Okay, so the class is being recorded, and this is A230A, and my name is Dr. Sameh, and we're doing Othello. Hopefully, we finish Othello off today and then transition to the Duchess of Malfi. So, how much do we know about Othello? Obviously, we know a lot, right? We're now Othello experts in terms of what kind of the dramatic framework the play is in terms of the ideas and ideologies that the play is reflecting. Obviously, we're talking about the Elizabethan age, which is part of the bigger umbrella that we call the Renaissance. And I'm not going to revisit the issues that I spoke about and that we associate with the Renaissance, the idea of science, the idea of geographic discoveries, the idea of liberalism and thought. We're not anymore talking about the clergy, the Catholic Church, uh, the different kinds of monopolies that they were exercising in the Middle Ages. We're now talking about an atmosphere and a climate of ideas that is liberal, that is more secular, if you like. So the issues and the ideas that plays in the Elizabethan age and even beyond would reflect this change of heart, if you like, change of attitude towards life. We spoke about some of the issues that people like Shakespeare and Webster grapple with the idea of order and established order, the idea of authority, the idea of hierarchies, whether those hierarchies are hierarchies of color, race, rank. We also spoke about the idea of patronage, the fact that Shakespeare and his other colleagues were working under this system of patronage or modern day sponsorship, where you're sponsored by somebody who is obviously richer, somebody perhaps part of the government. So it's only natural that your ideas are going to be in line with the messages that the government is trying to get across to the people. We spoke about all of these things and others. Now we're reflecting on all of these issues through the play Othello, because Othello can be a very good representation of what happened in the Elizabethan age. Again, a question may pop up from time to time, the idea that the setting, whether we're talking about the setting of Othello or the setting of the Duchess of Malfi, is far from being English because it's England. It's not England that we're having that the play or where the play takes place. It takes place in Italy, whether in Venice and Othello or in Malfi, in the case of the Duchess of Malfi, as we're going to see. And obviously, this is very significant, and this is also very, um, kind of, um, yeah, it merits the question why? Why would an English writer have settings as far away as Italy? And the answer, or the short answer, would be that he is trying to avoid persecution and he is trying to avoid. Can we ask you to mute your mic, please? Do we need that? Okay, so again, we're talking about the setting and why the setting is not England, because the writer is English. And we said that that would give the writer or the writers the opportunity to critique the government, to say, to find faults with the government. And when the government asks him why you're doing this or that, he would simply say that no, I'm not talking about you guys. The play is set in Italy and the names of the characters are Italian and stuff like that. So this was a very nice trick upon the part of the writers of the time. So let's go all the way to Othello and see how those ideas play out in the drama that we're having. Um, Obviously, it's a number of ideas and they are being kind of discussed in the play through the actions of the characters, how they interact, and obviously those characters represent those ideas, each in his own unique way. You have Iago, for example, the white manipulator, if you like. He represents perhaps, or he is an agent of the Venetian society that only believes in the idea of hierarchy. So he's an A. I mean, besides the fact that he has his own personal reasons to hate Othello and to kind of trick him, he also have, you know, reasons that he would share with the rest of the community, being white, being Christian, and obviously being white and being Christian, being European wouldn't allow you to have, you know, complete loyalty to somebody from outside your country, somebody who is dark, somebody who is non-Christian, and stuff like that. So let's go to where we stopped and see how this saga is going to come to an end. Perhaps the last thing that we stopped on and at would be the idea that, you know, scholars and critics are polarized over the character of Othello. Some people are all for him, and some other critics and scholars are totally against him. And this idea is going to get repeated as we proceed. So every time Othello comes up with something, whether it's good or bad, we come back to the idea of whether we think he is good or he is self-deluded and stuff like that. And also the agency of Iago. Is Iago totally responsible for the downfall of Othello, or is Othello helping him in some way? This is what we have been grappling with over the past 2 weeks. Of course, you know, I mean, we have two teams or two camps. One camp is headed by T.S. Eliot, who believes, who is anti-Othello. We have with him F.R. Leaves. And the other camp has A.C. Bradley and Wilson Knight, and they believe that Othello is such a nice guy. Othello is such a noble murderer. Can you see the oxymoron in this? I mean, when you have this contradiction of terms, how can he be noble and at the self same time a murderer? So we'll talk more about that. Um, I think a good start would be the fact that we're changing scenes. We started off in Venice, and now we're moving on to Cyprus. And we said that Cyprus has a sea, and we never, for all the love that we may have for the sea, we still believe that seas are unpredictable. Seas are forces of destruction sometimes. So that's when, but if you talk about Venice, Venice is the seat of civilization. It's a trade empire. They have a parliament. They have respected individuals. Even the conversations when we met them in Act One were very decent. I can charge you with things, I can accuse you of things, but I would allow you to defend yourself. And this is what we have seen in the bantering between Othello and Parpancio. So it was very decent indeed, except for those small encounters between Rodrigo and Iago, in which they were making fun of Othello, giving those racist labels to him as being thick-lipped and a Barbary and black ram and all those kinds of things. When you go to Act Two, like I said, we have a change of setting. The setting is now Cyprus, and the reason why those guys are all in Cyprus because there is a war and battles looming on the horizon. The Turks or the Ottoman Empire is invading Venice, and they are coming from the sea, from Cyprus. So instead of waiting for them, the Venetians and their military leader Othello decided that they should go and act. And instead of being defensive, they want to be on the offensive, like they say. Well, when they go there, we hear of a truce or a ceasefire between the two sides. So obviously, people like Othello have nothing to do, and this is perhaps a problem because Othello and his soldiers, uh, are used to the life of the military, where, of course, then there is very little encounter with women, if any. He doesn't know how to handle and deal with women because obviously the military at the time was exclusive to males and to men. He doesn't know about the ways of the world in the city. So you would expect disaster if he stays idle, if he doesn't have any business to do, and his business is battles and war fear and all those kinds of things. Again, who else do we have? We have Iago, and Iago. It seems that the the atmosphere of Cyprus is more befitting of his schemes and planning, evil as they are. So he's going to trick everybody, and he's going to set traps for everyone. And he's going to find in people like Cassio. Cassio happens to be also another assistant or soldier. He works also for Othello, and Othello, as you know, has just promoted him rather than promoting Iago. So obviously, Iago hates both Othello and Cassio, and somehow he's going to set them up together so that he can get to Othello through Cassio. If you still remember, we remember what he said about Cassio as being a mathematician, somebody who is not into the practicalities of war. According to Iago, Cassio never fought a battle, a real one. Again, at one point, we had glimpses and we have peeks into how Othello thinks and views love, and how Iago views the idea of love. Up until this moment, Othello is noble, Othello is very musical and very lofty. That's why his views of love are very pure, very innocent. Love for him is platonic. While Iago's views, like we said, is very sensual, is very bestial, and it focuses on whatever is physical in the relationship. Again, what is striking about Act Two is perhaps the fact that we'll see Ocello vanishing from the scene and disappearing for long stretches of time, and we said that this is bad news because if Othello is not around, Iago is going to be very active, scheming, and planning. So it's not in the best interest of Othello or for in the best interest of the play, for that matter, that Othello vanishes. And obviously, this is bad news, and this is going to have the balance shifting from Othello and towards Iago. And again, What is interesting about this is that we need to always be on the guard up about Iago or perhaps and his character because he is very inventive, he is very active. We may uh, um, have liking to what he does, not who he is, obviously, because he is bad, and we know from day one that he is bad. We may like the vibes around him, we may like his energies, and this is very tricky and very serious. So people are invited to keep their guard up when it comes to admiring Iago because he is evil. Um, how much do we know about Othello and Iago? We know that Iago, like I said, he is bluff, he is confident, he is also a professional actor in the sense that he can fake situations, he can fake being sad, being angry, being so he's not a genuine individual. Um, and as we proceed, we're going to see that Othello is becoming his victim. Um, Othello is obviously trusting him, and this is going to land Othello in trouble, of course. Um, okay, so we don't have subplots in Othello. Now, subplots means that you have another plot that runs parallel to the main plot. We don't have that. We don't have even comic reliefs. Comic reliefs happen when you have scenes that are light-hearted, where sometimes you have a clown or a joker, and they are meant to ease the tension because it's a tragedy. It's full of tension, but we don't have any of that in Othello. Again, we spoke enough about what A.C. Bradley and T.S. Wilson Knight think of Othello, and we also spoke about how Leaves and T.S. Eliot view Othello, and obviously A.C. Bradley believes that Othello is very genuine. He is a passionate lover, and his love not only inspires Desdemona, he inspires the entire members of the audience, which is obviously very strange. And he's saying that it is true that he murdered his his wife, but it is also true that the audience or members of the audience pardoned him or forgave him for that. Obviously, this is quite hyperbolic. This is very strange and exaggerated. So according to Bradley, the view of the play is that the tragedy is the undoing. Undoing is the destruction of the noble Moor by the devilish cunning of Iago. So Bradley believes that it is all the work and the planning of Iago. Like I said, we may disagree, we may agree, and that this was up for grabs. We spoke about it at one point. So obviously, Bradley focuses on external evil, that it is not, Othello who prompted all of this. No, it's he doesn't think about it this way. Uh, he believes that it's external evil and it's the malice of the demi-devil. He even calls, uh, what's his name? He calls Iago demi-devil. Um, Again, we have our differences, of course. We also spoke about anti-Othello scholars like T.S. Eliot. And T.S. Eliot is of the opinion that it was all self-dramatizing, that it is all due to the self-dramatizing nature of Othello. He doesn't believe that we would we should blame Iago for it. No, he doesn't. He says, no, this is not true. Uh, mm, it's all because of the readiness of Othello, the fact that Othello is ready to to be swayed by Iago to believe what Iago is saying against a background of military expertise and experience. You wouldn't believe that this is the Othello that everybody talks about. So it seems that T.S. Eliot, it seems, is trying to say that Othello has this vested interest in being portrayed as victim, is in behaving the way he does because he wants to. He is a showy kind of person. He wants to be admired and spoken highly of. If he cannot guarantee and achieve that, he wants to be petted. He wanted to be to people to feel sympathy for him. So either or he willed it all. He was part of the whole thing. You cannot blame Iago entirely for it. F.R. Leaves also thought that what Bradley is saying would sentimentalize the tragedy. He's saying that it's a tragedy, not a comedy, a romantic comedy or something. So if we keep saying that it is Iago who should be blamed for it, we're shifting the center, we're displacing and shifting the center of the play. The center of the play, or at the core and at the center, is Othello. So if now we're all the time talking about Iago and his agency, so what we might as well call the play Iago, not Othello. So he simply, F.R. Leaf simply says the plain fact is that in Shakespeare's tragedy of Othello, Othello is the chief personage. He is the main character, in which, in such a sense, that the tragedy may fairly be said to be Othello's character in action. And Iago is a mere subordinate and merely ancillary. He shouldn't be given bigger uh, scope, otherwise, the whole fabric of the play will collapse. Um, and then FR Leaves also would oppose Wilson Knight. You still remember Wilson Knight was talking all the time about this idea of musicality, the fact that Othello is noble and is musical and is very poetic. And according to Wilson Line and Knight, these are things that would endear him to the audience. That's why they love him, and they are obviously ready to forgive him for what he did. So again, Leaves is stressing the fact that self-dramatization is an essential element in Othello's makeup, and it remains with him until the end of the play. Uh, he even goes as far as, and I'm talking obviously about F.R. Leaves, he even goes as far as saying that the essential traitor is within the gates. When it comes to the character of Othello, the essential traitor is within the gates, whatever that means. I would like you to look at this statement and see whether, if you apply it, of course, to Othello and his actions. So F.R. Leaves is saying that the traitor is within the gates. I'll give you perhaps a minute to think about it. The traitor is within the gates. Whose gates and who is the traitor here? The traitor is, so we're
Othello?
talking, yeah. And this is a very powerful image and a very powerful metaphor. Okay? Can you think of it when I say that when it comes to the character of Othello and what he did, the traitor is within the gates. What do you think?
The gate is his heart.
Yeah, the gate is Othello himself, his mind and soul and heart. Very good. Okay. So it's so in in battles and wars, you normally have two declared enemies, right? You have you know, one country on one side and the other enemy country on the other side, right? So you know your enemy. Your enemy is very clear in front of your eyes. But sometimes within the same country, you have enemies. And obviously, those enemies do not help you. They are from within your ranks. They speak your language. They embrace your faith and your religion. They talk and behave like yourself. So in this case, we say that it's not the declared enemy that we're talking about that we have to kind of think of all the time. You can also have enemies from within your ranks, and in this case, if your own people are your enemy, if you have people from within you who are your enemies, we call them traitors. Don't we have traitors sometimes? So traitors are people from within your own country. So um, let's talk about Othello. Othello is on one side, and Iago is on the other side. And it is very clear that whenever we talk about enemies, we talk about Othello and Iago, but we never talk about Othello as being his own enemy. He is his own traitor. The enemy and the traitor is within the gates, which means that he is responsible. He did it for himself. Are you getting the point? Okay. So do you agree? Now that we have understood it, do you agree that the enemy is within the gates when it comes to uh, Othello? Or do you think, or do you believe in the agency of Iago and that Iago is malignant? Iago did everything. Where do you stand on this?
The first statement.
What?
Iago is his own enemy.
No, no, we're not talking about Iago. We're talking about Othello.
Oh, Othello, I
Yeah,
mean.
right? So
Yes.
Othello, you think that Othello is his own enemy, right?
Yes.
Um, okay. Okay. It's a lot of debate, and perhaps as we proceed, you can have more information about each that would allow you to decide. And then we move to a very important and significant scene in Act 3. It's very decisive. It's called the temptation scene. And when we talk about temptation, like I said the other day, we have that would invoke this archetypal temptation. Remember the devil when he tempted Adam and Eve, asking them to eat from the forbidden tree, and what happened to them. So this is the archetypal type of temptation that we can think of every time we think of temptation. Temptation means that you're doing something against your wish, but you're not conscious. You're not aware that you're doing it against your um, against yourself, because there is a great deal of persuasion going on you. Um, so this is what we're going to have. We're going to have the temptation scene. And obviously, when we talk about the temptation scene, we talk about Iago being the tempter, and we talk about Othello being the victim or the tempted individual. What happens in the temptation? Let me give you the temptation scene, which is also part of what we call Othello's the scene where there is echoing, the echo scene, echo when I say something and you repeat it. So I would like you to read the encounter or the exchange between Othello and Iago, and I would like you to tell me whether what kind of feelings you have. Do you think it's a normal, casual kind of conversation, or is there something wrong about the conversation? Yalla, go ahead. I'll give you a minute to read it all, and I would like you to tell me what is going on. Go ahead. Hmm. What do you think? Is this a normal kind of conversation between two people? Is it normal? So when I ask you a question, what do I expect from you? An answer or you repeat the question?
An answer.
Yes. When you ask me a question, what do you expect from me? Should I echo the question? Should I repeat the question and every word you said?
No.
No. So when I do that, what do you think?
I think
It's as if he's trying to mask himself. He's trying not to show his real colors by not like giving his individual answer. For me,
This is
that's
analysis. What you're saying, Yaleen, is analysis. I'm talking about this casual conversation. When somebody does this to you, he or she gets on your nerves. You get nervous and you get angry and upset. So this is the first stage. I'm trying to make you upset. So if you're angry and upset, what happens? Would you be able to think properly?
No, he will be
No.
provoked.
no.
Yeah, you're going to be provoked, and obviously, this is the first stage of perhaps convincing you of something, right? So he started off laying the ground by repeating the questions and certain, honest, my lord, right? Um, so this is the first stage. And then we look at the words that gets repeated. They are very significant. Like words like honest, my lord. Okay, so obviously he is trying to provoke Othello. He's trying to send an indirect message. He doesn't say anything because he is coward, because he doesn't want to commit himself, because he knows the character of Othello very well. So that's why he is giving and taking. You would think that he is giving a piece of info, but he's taking it away. Honest, my lord. So obviously, this echoing is very strategic. This is strategic echoing, where there is a plan and a design behind it. So what was the result at the end of the conversation? What did Othello said? Othello, think, my lord, by heaven, thou means you echoest me as if there were some monster in thy thought. What do you think? Do you think that Iago succeeded if Othello is saying this?
Yes, he succeeded.
Yes, he's saying that there is a monster in your thought. Obviously, a monster about Cassio, right? About the relationship between Cassio and Desdemona. So it seems that it worked for Iago. Now Othello is more, um, you know, like provoked than ever. He now feels suspicious that perhaps something is going on between the two, and is very foolishly going to act on this kind of perception, false as it is. See, this is the power of manipulation. Obviously, Iago is manipulating Othello. Obviously, Iago knows how to get to Othello, and it's through the temptation scene and the this echo business that he is conducting. And that would leave us with the question of, again, Othello, and why. Why does it seem that Othello is so ready to accept Iago's insinuation? Insinuations is when you indirectly give somebody hints about a certain behavior. You don't say it right away, but you keep repeating something so the other person gets the message. So these are insinuations that Iago was, kind of exercising and giving on or to Othello. So people keep asking, why is Othello so ready? Why doesn't he think twice about what Iago is saying? Why is he falling an easy victim to those insinuations? Um, People thought about it, I mean, scholars, and they came up with the idea that perhaps Othello is or has a set of insecurities. He has a number of complexes. We call them inferiority complexes that would prompt him to succumb to what Iago is saying and eventually agree. So, what are those insecurities that we have seen and felt ourselves about the character of Othello? Can we talk about what you think are his insecurities, his complexes?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
His age is older than his
Yeah, he
wife,
is way, yeah, he is way older than Desdemona.
and his color
He,
black and
they don't meet. Um, I mean, obviously they have different colors. She's white and he is black. She's Venetian. She is housed, if you like, and he is unhoused. Remember when he was speaking to Parabanchu, saying that it is true that I'm unhoused, a foreigner, but I am perhaps better than you in terms of the achievements that I make or I made. Um, so it's the fact that he is perhaps double the age of Desdemona, the fact that he is not white, I mean, those standards of handsomeness wouldn't be on his side, given that European standards of handsomeness would be that you have to be white, green, or blue-eyed. You have be to have straight hair, blonde, and everything in between. So obviously, these standards do not apply to Othello, and obviously he knows that. So these are insecurities that he may have felt, and he has, because he feels them so much, and he perceives and he lives with them every day. He started to internalize them. They became part of his character. It's like when you tell somebody that and this is what we normally warn people against. When you keep telling your son, for example, you're a failure, you're a failure, he becomes a failure, he or she, because he starts to internalize those concepts and ideas. He starts to live them and be them. perhaps to escape away from your nagging and your bullying, if you like. So this is what happened to Othello. He started to internalize those insecurities, and they became complexes, and they became part of his makeup and part of his character. So that could be a reason why the insinuations of Iago succeeded very quickly with Othello. So again, we're talking about the insecurities, and among those are the fact that he is the outsider, the extravagant and willing stranger in a community of white Venetians. He is portrayed as forever homeless, uprooted, and on the move. Uh, um, and he is incapable of ever being naturalized, and he is ethnically different. So these are all insecurities that he started to internalize, and they became part of him. Again, you would add to that the fact that the whole atmosphere was a very racist one. Again, middle-aged, accustomed to to being in the company of men rather than women, because he was in the military, and military life is about is exclusive to men. He is not accustomed to the company of women. So these could be perhaps driving forces, things that would contribute towards him believing that he is undeserving of Desdemona, believing that Desdemona may have had a relationship with somebody who is as white as she is, as young as she is, as Christian as she is, and so on and so forth. So Othello's insecurities about his race, age, lack of experience with women would intensify a tendency to expect the worst of the opposite sex. He would act on those things. He would believe in them so much so that whatever Desdemona does in order to prove that she is not what he thinks she is, he wouldn't believe her. And she didn't even try. Again, when it comes also to Othello's assessment of Desdemona, in spite of the fact that he loves her and everything, um, but perhaps this what allies Othello to Iago is that they are united in their perception of women in general. The two are males in a male-dominated world that thinks very little of women. So it's very ironic that he is very similar to Iago, and perhaps that this is what would help Iago even more. The fact that deep down Othello is male, and deep down he has those misogynist tendencies and views about women. So he's no different. Um, and we have examples of him again having this wrong assessment of women in general and of Desdemona. And he started as he starts to kind of believe what Iago is saying, he's going to even dwindle in stature. He's not going to be the Othello that we met in Act 1 and the beginning of Act 2. He's going to become less. He's going to also use language that you're likely to see Iago using, very low, very sensual, and everything in between. So when you have this happening, you would ask yourself, is this the Othello that we're familiar with? Is this the Othello that Knight is speaking about? Very musical, very noble. Obviously, what he says is very base, is very um bad, negative, animalistic. He is no different in this sense than Iago. So again, when you hear him, I mean, Othello say these things, you would stop and think, and perhaps you may ask yourself this question: is Othello getting metamorphosed into another Iago? Are we seeing another version of Iago in Othello now? And this is what one of the critics is talking about. And Jan Cott, who happens to be a director and a critic, remarks that there is enchanting poetry. I mean, it's true that he still has this power of poetry, but at the same time, a decaying set of values. His values are decaying, and he is now crawling at Iago's feet. He speaks Iago's language, and he also take over from Iago's obsessions with animal imagery when it comes to women and love. I mean, he becomes another Iago, unfortunately. And then we move on to scenes and acts where violence and death will be dominating. And again, we're moving towards this downslide into violence as willed and as arranged and planned by Iago. And in one of those situations, we see also Othello remarking about his love for Othello. It shows us that Othello is still, he still has those remnants of nobility in him, and he is also giving us some kind of prediction about what will happen next. He sees what, obviously, Desdemona was with him, and she took leave, and he stayed, and he started to remark, expressing his love for her, saying, "Excellent rich." It's rich here means poor. I mean, it's as if he's saying that she is a poor girl. "Perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee, and when I love thee not, chaos is come again." He is saying that I am damned and I will be damned. Um, I do love thee, I do love you. Obviously, he's talking about Desdemona. And if I stop loving you, if I don't love you for whatever reason, chaos is come again. So the whole world is going, and the whole country is going to be engulfed and enveloped in chaos. So obviously, this is also very lofty, and it means that he still loves her, but obviously, he's going to talk about honor and all those kinds of things. So it's chaos. So it's a love relationship between a man and his wife, and he is making a mountain out of it. Again, this is his nature, and this is what we know about him. So this is very hyperbolic. Hyperbolic means a very exaggerated kind of language that he is using. And hyperbolic language leaves us sometimes unclear about what the one who utters them means. And here we have this kind of ambiguity. We don't know what he exactly means. Perhaps he means I love you at the risk of perdition or damnation. Um, so again, very significant and very lofty, because he hasn't yet um, dwindled into the one that we're going to see, blinded by jealousy and blinded by the insinuations of Iago. Um, Again, people would come again to the idea of whether Iago and his lust for destruction were the reason why Othello falls, or is it Othello um, who has been part of it? And then we move to Act 4, where you have another very significant scene, which is the scene of the handkerchief that Desdemona has. Somehow, she's going to go and see Cassio because Cassio wanted her to interfere so that, you know, Othello can pardon him. Remember, Cassio was entangled in a fight, and Othello was so angry. So Desdemona will meet Cassio, and somehow, without knowing it, her handkerchief is going to fall. And when she's going to be asked about it, she wouldn't say that it fell. She's going to perhaps say that she lost it somewhere. And obviously, this is not a convincing answer and would create more problems than Desdemona thought it would. Um, so, again, suspicion is being built up, and Othello is getting crazier every day. And when he is crazy and when he is not in control of his emotions, he incoherence and rage are, controlling him. And he starts to even eavesdrop on Cassio and Desdemona. He is exactly behaving like, yeah. Another very significant scene would be the melancholy scene, and melancholy means sadness. And this is a scene that has Desdemona and her maidservant Emilia. Emilia is her maidservant, and she happens to also be the wife of Iago, but she is different. She's not as bad as he is. So Desdemona, typical of the day, would need somebody to help her to bed, to prepare her for bed, and Emilia was with her. And Desdemona, of course, is um, feeling that something is wrong. Her husband is not treating her the way he used to. He is not loving anymore. He shouts, he suspects and doubts, and everything in between. So she's obviously confiding in Emilia, and she's giving us a story that is very anticipatory of what will happen to her. The story was about Barbary, and Barbary happens to be the maidservant of Desdemona's mother, and we're told that Barbary was also abandoned by her lover. Uh, um, and she of course felt sad and everything, and he got mad. And again, this is very prophetic, and this is very anticipatory of what will happen to Desdemona herself. So again, the encounter between Desdemona and Emilia is this intimate moments between two women. And obviously, this is meant to contrast with the violent and the rough and the tough scenes between men that we are so used to in the play. Um, so the scene describes a moment of heightened tension because of its content. It relates the story of Barbary. Barbary, like I said, happens to be Desdemona's mother's maid, possibly black. And Barbary had a lover who proved mad and did forsake or abandoned her. He left her, and who died singing a song of Willow. And the lady, or Barbary, died singing a song of Willow. Obviously, it's a sad song because she is lamenting the loss of this mad lover. So obviously, this is going to get repeated. So the Willow song expresses female despair and longing, and also the passive acceptance towards the lover. Because this is what Desdemona says. Desdemona would say, "Let nobody blame him, his scorn I approve. Don't interfere." She's telling everybody, "I accept whatever he does." Obviously, Desdemona is referring to Othello, and you would ask yourself, what kind of lady is she? Is this Desdemona that we met at the beginning? She was very assertive. She was very vocal and outspoken, daring and courageous. She challenged her family to get married to this guy. She challenged her traditions. She challenged her religion and got married to somebody who is not her rank or race or color. So now to see her behaving like this in a very submissive way would make your head spin. So again, you would ask yourself this very important: is this the Desdemona that we're familiar with? Is this the Desdemona who could resist her father's pleas, marry in secret, and depart from her home for a foreign shore? Um, so this is what we're getting, a totally different and a totally changed Desdemona. On the other hand, you would have Emilia behaving in a very assertive way, in a very aggressive way, if you like. She talks about the relationship between men and women and how women have been maligned and have been thought very little of down through the ages. I don't want to spoil it. I would like you to read it and tell me what you think. This is what she said. Let me make it perhaps. Read it. I'll give you a couple of minutes and think about it. This is the red part, and it's said by Emilia. Now, go ahead. Read it and think about it. Hmm. What do you think? What do you
Well,
think? Is
I
this wise? Do you think this is if for example I gave you this kind of extract and you don't know who the speaker is, and I say choose whether the speaker is Emilia or Desdemona. What do you think? Do you think that you would have ever this the, you would have ever thought that this is Emilia? I'm asking you.
yes, doctor, it's Emilia.
Yeah, it was Emilia, but would you expect a maid servant to be as eloquent and as wise? This is what I'm saying.
Maybe because she's shouting out for the equality between
No,
men
no,
and
no, no,
women.
no. You're not getting my question. You're not listening. I'm saying that you have Desdemona, and of course you know who Desdemona is. And you have Emilia, who is a maidservant. And I'm giving you this quotation and I'm telling you who is saying it. Would you automatically say that this is Emilia, or you would say that this is Desdemona? Who is more educated? Who have you seen much of, very assertive, challenging his family, her religion, and everything in between?
Yeah, Desdemona.
Desdemona, right? So if I gave you the quotation, you would say, yeah, this is Desdemona. I kind of expected it. But to our dismay and surprise, this is not Desdemona, this is Emilia, right? So again,
Right.
this was quite strange to have Desdemona saying, let him do whatever he likes with me, even killing me. And don't please blame him. And you have Emilia saying those nuggets of wisdom about the relationship between men and women and how this relationship has always been a relationship of dominance and hegemony upon the part of the male, right? So she is, what is she saying? Just to remember in her plea. Obviously, she is advocating for the rights of women before there was such a thing. I'm not talking about this Demona now. I'm focused on Emilia. What did she say in order to defend women and to say that they are what you think they are and they have rights and everything? What did she say? She is, to me, is more of a lawyer, and she is in the court of public opinion, if you like. And she is taking up the cause of women. I'll give you the quotation one more time and tell me how or what her defense is. Read it again, please. Sorry, what's that? Okay, how can I take it off? Obviously, it's going to spin. What's that? Yes, good. Sorry. Yeah, this is the one. Hmm. Yeah. What did she say?
She's claiming that there is equality between men and women. Like they sense that we sense like the male uh, insensitivity and they are affections like we are
Mm-hmm.
desires and also morality.
Mm. Yeah, she's trying to say that
She's-
men and women are human beings. Why would you think that men have sense and women do not? Why do you think that men see and smell and we don't? Why do you think that men have affections and we don't? Desires, I mean, we both have desires and we both are weak sometimes, right? And
Yes,
she refers to the fact that, yeah, if we make mistakes, it's simply because you guys push us to the limits. We make mistakes because of your own mistakes. See how eloquent this is? Again, you wouldn't expect this from a maidservant because maidservants were at the bottom of the social ladder. not very well educated. And there is also this talk about racial issues, and it's all over the place, as a matter of fact. But obviously, those racial slurs and racial issues that we have are not new to the play, are part of a structure of feeling that was just like that. Even the Queen Elizabeth I, was part of it when she, at one point, deported Moors and black people because she thought that they are taking the jobs of the citizens. Um, so those racial attitudes towards people who are not white is or are typical. Queen Elizabeth herself had ordered the deportation of Negroes and black Moors from England, and she was saying that they were depriving her own Christian people from jobs. You see how racist even the Queen was. She's referring to the other people as non-Christian, as black and Negroes. So intolerance was perhaps the order of the day. Together with racism and the racial issues, we also have patriarchal domination and gender inequality. Patriarchal domination means that men were considered more important than women, and women were not considered equal to men. Again, even the reviews of the play at the time would uh, talk about that or would go in this direction. When Thomas Reimers, for example, spoke about what is it that the audience stand to benefit when they see the play, he spoke about a number of one of them is a caution to the maidens of a caution means the play is warning maidens of quality means white females like Desdemona. It is warning them if they ever think of eloping with and running away with black moors without their parents' consent. Obviously, no tolerance, no interfaith or inter-race, unions is accepted. It was also a warning to all good wives that they look well to their linen. Obviously, linen here is a reference to the handkerchief that Desdemona forgot. Again, it's about keeping or making sure that duties are fulfilled as well. And it's a lesson to husbands that before their jealousy be tragic, the proofs may be mathematical. Again, this is perhaps a reference to Othello. Before he is trying to say that before jealousy gets the most of you, before it gets you down, you need to also think and rethink your decisions. Again, we have this reference to the tragedy and the aim and the role of tragedy, which is very much in line with what Aristotle said. Remember when we spoke about the tragic hero, spoke about hamartia, which means error in judgment, and when you spoke about catharsis, when the characters release their excessive feelings, emotions, whether they are pity and fear, and they go home as if nothing happened. And then we move to Act 5. And of course, in Act 5, we will have this soliloquy and this speech by um, Othello when he kills his wife, immediately before he kills his wife. And it seems that he has internalized all what people told him about himself as being Moorish, as being black, as being non-Christian. So obviously, killing her was in part succumbing to his set of insecurities, and killing himself was obviously killing the alien in himself, killing the non-Christian, killing the the foreigner in him. So Act 5 is the key here. The issues of genre as well as of difference come to fruition, although without being totally resolved by the death that follow. It's very tense, of course. In Act 5, Scene 1, we'll see how Cassio is wounded by Rodrigo and how Rodrigo is stabbed and killed by Iago. So, as you can see, everybody is killing everybody else. And of course, we are all in expectation of the grand killing of it all, the grand murder, obviously, which is obviously the killing of Desdemona. So, Act 5, Scene 2. Where obviously um, Othello is going to walk into the room where Desdemona is sleeping, and he has a light, and he is going to give us perhaps one of their final speeches together. And look at the language. The language is still lofty, and again, it also shows, or the conversation, not the conversation because obviously she was asleep or something, the encounter or the monologue um, uh, shows us that he still loves her, but he is obviously citing honor and all those kinds of things. It is the cause, my soul. Let me not name it to you, you chase stars. It is the cause, yet I'll not shed her blood, nor scar that whiter skin of hers than snow and smooth as monumental alabaster, yet she must die. He admits that he loves her, she is so beautiful, and he cannot find it in his heart to spill her blood or to kill her using a sword or a knife, because he believes that she is as smooth as monumental alabaster. That's why he's going to kill her, strangle her, he's going to hang her, which is obviously no difference. After all, she's going to die and be killed. So, but if it shows anything, it shows that he still has those feelings for her. But obviously, his jealousy and his foolishness has overcome him, and soberness and wisdom are taking a back seat. Again, it's as you can see, like we said, he has those comparisons between hair and this white alabaster and its purity and beauty, perhaps, but he still believes that she has to die because um, honor is involved. The question remains, okay, now that he killed or is about to kill his wife, and now that killing his wife means that he succumbed to his insecurities, he submitted perhaps to the insinuations of Iago, and perhaps he is also succumbing to his self-image as a grand individual. Remember, self-dramatizing. I don't know what. So is Othello a deluded, self-important fool or a noble hero brought down by circumstance? This is so the wheel comes full circle now. We need to ask ourselves whether we think Othello is a deluded, a deceived, self-important fool, or we think that he is a noble hero who was brought down by circumstance. What do you think? I'll give you a couple of minutes to think, and I don't want to spoil it for you by you reading this. Just focus. Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Is Othello a deluded, self-important fool, or is he a noble hero brought down by circumstance? Yeah, what do you think? Where do you stand? Farid, come to the mic and tell us.
I believe Doctor he's a noble hero because the circumstances around him is are
We're
the
bigger than himself, you mean?
yes, it
Mm.
forces him to sacrifice his love of his life and his own life also.
So you think he was a victim of circumstance. If he was put in a in a different set of circumstances, you would have reacted differently, right?
Yes, yes. Also, the surrounding people of him, they drove him to
Mm.
such actions.
Yeah, where was his mind then? Okay,
Maybe
yeah, okay. Thank you, Tagreed. Can we have somebody else? Are we talking about a deluded, self-important fool, or a noble man brought, or a noble hero brought down by circumstance? Hmm. What do you think? Okay, so I would like you to write perhaps an essay on that. I would like you to think deep before you write, and then write an essay of perhaps, and it can be a page or perhaps a couple of pages, and send it to us on the WhatsApp group so that we can have a discussion around it. I'm sure you have a lot to share with us. Let's move on. So no answer is complete. Even the answer that you're going to hear now, it's not complete. It depends on how you look at things. It may help you take or decide whether he is this or that, but it's not a conclusive answer because we are, capable human beings and we can think for ourselves, obviously. So Leaves, for example, believes that he is a reference to Othello. He is a deluded, self-important fool. Um, he so obviously it wasn't justice that he was after. It was self-deception. And according to Leaves, the play or the last great speeches by Othello proved that just that. So they are magnificent. It is true again, but they are full of self preoccupation. Where the focus is obviously on himself. He is very self-centered. He focuses on his emotions rather than on Desdemona and what she did and what she didn't. So his last speech before stabbing himself becomes unmistakably self-dramatization, as unself-comprehending as before. Again, you still have people who believe that he is a noble hero brought down by circumstance. And one of them, of course, would be Nelson Knight and A.C. Bradley. So what do they suggest? They suggest, or they emphasize actually, the fact that he is a noble individual and he is an honorable murderer. I have never seen murderer and honorable come together. Only here. So he, according to those guys, he is an honorable murderer, if you will. Uh, um, and what he did in honor. It's more or less like condoning honor killing, for example, in our modern times. Um, Marjorie Garber argues that Othello records and responds to a world in crisis, a crisis figured in part through emergent categories like race, class, gender, and sexuality. I mean, she's obviously referring to dynamics involved, and obviously some of those dynamics were unprecedented. Again, there is talk about the speech that he made before he kills himself. Where obviously he is presenting himself as both hero and villain. Uh, Obviously, as a villain, he is being villainized by his own self, and also by the society. Society is saying that he is black, that he is non-Christian, that he is this and that. He started to internalize all those negative attitudes of those Venetians who see him as a racially or a radically different and unchristian individual. So he internalized those bad and negative attitudes. Um, and then he has those good qualities in him, because they also say that he is a military leader and he is a hero and everything. So it is as if he is trying, by killing himself, he is trying to kill those stereotypes and negative attitudes toward inside him. But obviously, you cannot kill um, the one and leave the other. He killed him. It's one kind of killing. It only happens once. So Othello's final gesture means that he kills himself, just as he once killed a Muslim on behalf of Venice and civilization. Again, in spite of the fact that he killed in himself the alien in himself and the outsider, he still, I mean, his outsider status never changed. He has to die, in other words. He cannot escape his skin color, his identity, who he is. So obviously the only solution would be to kill himself. So thus the hero's death by suicide, the end towards which the play has been moving, encapsulates all the contradictions of his position within Venetian society, which have in large part contributed to his death. So he kills the alien within himself. So Othello here is enacting his role as the outsider, striving to belong to a society that would always exclude him, no matter what. And this is obviously the end of it. This is what Othello is all about. I think we have space for questions. Okay, do you have any questions about the period? the run-up for the Elizabethan age. We spoke about the medieval period. We spoke also about the Elizabethan age and also Othello. Do you have any questions? Okay, nice. So what do I intend to do now? Should I proceed with the Duchess of Malfi? No, I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'll give you some time to read the play on your own. And obviously it can be a little bit asking too much if I ask you to read it over the span of 5 or 6 days, because it's long, Old English, 5 acts, and everything in between. So what I am proposing is one of two scenarios, or three, possibly. One of them would be that you read the play, and another solution would be that you watch the play, and it's going to be readily available on the internet, on YouTube, or you read a summary. But I don't want you to use the third card until you perhaps exhaust the other two possibilities. You either read the play or watch it. Watching it would be also be, it will take only one setting. You're going to perhaps watch it for 2 hours, and that would be it. So read or watch the play, and then perhaps you need to connect the dots. Look at what we said about the age, about even Othello, because they have lots of similarities. Try to apply this to the play while reading. And when we come again, inshallah, next week, we will, discuss it fully and thoroughly. We're going to stop on this note and with this item, and I'll see you, inshallah, next week. وhappy Eid وطني. أشوفكم على خير إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم everyone. Bye bye.